Hello there, welcome back to Battle Brothers Abridged. In the previous part, we discovered the joys of a sharp flag, which began to carry us through the missions, because it can sometimes kill the enemy in one hit, and it can kill from a distance. We still had some trouble with the undead, because they kept not dying as they are wont to do, but we got away with it in the end, and now we're just carrying on with another mission. This time we're escorting a caravan from the left side of the map to the right, and somebody attacks us on the way. How rude. I immediately tried to get into the menu to see if you could save in battles because I was looking to stop playing at this moment. One thing that will help us get through this fight is the caravan itself. It's here on the map, but they suck unfortunately. They both have almost no gear and almost no AI as well. They just kind of stand there. I think if we moved our whole party behind the caravan or something, they might start fighting. As it stands though, we advance up, clash with the enemy and start fighting, bringing them down quite quickly actually. We immediately grab a couple of kills. The enemy don't have very many good troops. We have the RNG advantage. So all we have to do is click the attack button enough times and we should win. There's some unknown probability that we won't, but it's looking good. Thus, looks there like the enemy archer is distracted shooting arrows over the fight at the caravan. So they are providing some use after all, I suppose. We've already taken down 2 of the enemies, now we have like double their numbers, plus they have archers who are going to be locked into melee. Overall, this fight turns out to be easy. And it's my lucky day, it's a fight where we get a bit of the enemy's inventory for some reason. They've dropped some gold and supplies that we will happily take on board. We've got quite a lot of stuff in our inventory now, just bad weapons that I don't need. We'll sell them later on to make, well, very small amounts of money actually. The caravan eventually reaches its destination, and one nice thing about a caravan reaching a town is it gives the town this status where it's well supplied, which makes everything a bit cheaper. Perfect because we can now pick up some supplies. We need tools and medical supplies right now, and they'll theoretically be a bit cheaper than normal if we buy them right now. The actual difference isn't very large, it's like 10 gold or something. But every little might help. We grab another mission at that town, it's to hunt down some thieves. A very poorly paid mission I might add. I think thieves are supposed to be a low-level target party to go after, and that's why the pay for attacking them always seems to be quite poor. But in this case, one of the thieves has a pike, which is the equivalent weapon to our flag, and early on gets a one-hit kill on our frontline guy at the bottom. So, now this mission probably won't be worth it. We need to go on and salvage it then by not losing anyone else. Luckily, RNG is on our side now. We're being attacked a lot, but we're also getting lots of blocks. They're throwing axes into our shields and the shields are holding, so that's all good. Meanwhile, at the top of the line, we have numbers on our side right here. We've got a couple of surrounds going on, plus we have our poking troops getting to work. Especially effective when some of these enemies who aren't wearing helmets will take headshots and that will bypass their regular armor. So we just sort of grind on from here. We clear up the top end of the map, like right here with this triple surround. Now we can send those guys around the back of the enemy's armored guys towards the bottom of the line. All the while my guys in front of them were just raising their shields and trying not to die, while our pokey guys also provided a bit of support. And here's my main man pokey guy coming down from the top, grabbing another kill. That's now guaranteed our victory because the remaining enemies are trying to flee. We'll just kill them as they do so. I did actually start changing to equip some of my guys with flails in this situation to see if we could headshot them to death and save their armor. In this case it did not work, but we did actually get one piece of armor dropped, although I think that armor there might be the armor dropped by my guy who got killed because he died to a headshot or something. I think that's how it works. We didn't get any useful supplies. We've got a load of low-level weapons again, so we've got even more junk that I don't really want to use. We'll just sell it for pittance somewhere. And to sell it, I went to the bottom right-hand corner of the map where there was a city. Supposedly you get better prices here. Better for you, that is, when you're selling. It also had the ambushed trade route status, which increases all of the prices on everything, including sale prices. So, if I sell all my junk now, I'll make like 10% more or something from doing so it's time to clear out that inventory. It was at this town that I finally discovered it is possible to look at multiple contracts. A problem I had before is that when there are several contracts available, I thought the game was forcing you to either take it or leave it, so if you didn't accept a contract it just disappeared. If you actually get to the very last stage in accepting a contract, because there are 2 accept screens, if you leave it on the second one it doesn't go away, it only goes away if you leave it on the first one. So, I was able to look for a mission that suited me. We ended up doing another caravan escort mission, which suits me because you don't have to press the controls while it's walking around. And then on the way, we got attacked by a small band of goblins, so that's something a little bit different. And they bring a special ability to the table. They have netted us, so now a couple of our guys can't move. This turns out not to be so bad, because we're still about a turn's worth of action points away from engaging the enemy, and you can spend action points to take the net off. So essentially I just need to stand around and get rid of the net and then we'll carry on. Annoyingly, we're being hit by quite a few arrows, and they're also poison arrows. I can't quite remember what they do, but probably worse than being hit by a normal arrow. As it happens, we plough on forwards and start engaging the goblins at close range. Once we're here, we have numbers certainly on our side, and you can also see I've sent a guy round the back to be near the enemy archers. The archers can't shoot if you have a guy next to them. So that guy is just there being a distraction for now. We start fighting our way through the goblins, however, on the way, one of my soldiers is taking a beating. He takes 2 hits in the same turn and goes right down. So while we've got to the point when many of our soldiers have enough armor to survive 1 hit, maybe not to the head, but usually they can survive 1 hit, 2 hits can still be deadly. So we need more armor basically to be able to get through turns and have guys just barely survive, and then we can do some tactics to keep them alive rather than just have them die before you get your next turn and can do anything about it. Anyway, now we can surround and pound the remaining few goblins and bring them down relatively easily, especially with more of that 2-tile melee attack action, which I quite like. We go on to finish them off with no further losses. I was trying to take out the final goblin with headshots using a flail because they can aim for the head, unlike most weapons for some reason. But unfortunately we didn't get it due to a lack of action points. Something, we didn't get very good loot. But our guy who died actually did survive. It's one of these cases where he just gets a permanent debuff instead. He's now got much less morale and initiative, which determines when you go in the turn order. Once the caravan got to the town it was going to, I decided to get rid of this traumatized guy. We give him 90 crowns and send him on his way. Maybe that'll give him enough therapy to get over the trauma. Thanks for working at Offie D Corp. There's only one guy available to replace him. He's not very good, but he's on the team now because I wanted to keep my numbers up. Although, as someone in the comments to a previous video said, the game actually scales difficulty based on numbers, so my assumption that you should always have the maximum number of troops you can have in a battle was poorly made. We should actually have fewer troops. It would make the game easier, which I hate. We do have some money now though, and this town has an armourer, so I'm going to take the chance to buy some more gear. We've got 1 heater shield, which is an upgrade on the regular shield. It gives you minus 5% chance to get hit or something. And a couple of pieces of genuine armour. That's the armour we need to survive into that 2nd and 3rd hit, and maybe be in general less on the verge of death constantly. We'll see anyway. The next mission was to defend this town that I'm at. Some bandits come over. It's time to fight some more bandits then. Annoyingly, we have to go uphill to reach them. At first, I walked all the way to the left side of the screen where I could be defending a hill facing the enemy, but they ultimately didn't advance out of the fog of war, so I ended up going back up their hill. Kindly, though, the enemy have deployed pretty far back from the edge of the hill, so we don't have to fight uphill, and they've deployed in 2 groups that are really far away from each other in terms of how far you can move each turn. So they're effectively 2 small groups we need to attack separately, and this bigger of the groups is splitting up as we advance towards it. So what I ended up doing is sending a few guys to distract and fight the group at the top. That's probably enough to take them down on its own, whereas the bottom group is going to get more surrounded and pounded. And it goes pretty well. Their armor and gear is worse than ours, so it's another, we have the RNG advantage, we have the numbers advantage. Something has to go terribly wrong for this battle to go poorly for us. As it happens, that doesn't happen, so we immediately wipe out that bottom group and charge on through. The top group's going to be in big trouble. Looks like that archer's going to switch over to that group. Probably not the best thing. They should just leave. Sometimes the enemy will flee, but I've noticed they certainly don't flee when they should. Like right now, they should all be trying to flee. They're screwed, but the morale's kind of high. Here we are at the end of the battle. Nothing went wrong, no casualties, and it was even a fight where we got some reasonable loot. And by reasonable, I pretty much just mean they dropped food and money and stuff. It seems to me that when you fight defending villages, that's when the parties that spawn have an inventory with a few things that you can use in them. So maybe that's like hard coded in and normally they don't have it for unknown reasons, or they use it up and then just survive magically afterwards. Whatever the case, we complete the mission and then immediately spend all of the money we got from it and more buying an expensive piece of armor from the village while I'm here. So we're getting closer and closer to having that armored front line that will last a long time. To find a new mission, I decided to head to a city to the south because I've now got a bunch of junk in my inventory to sell also. With more good luck, it's got ambushed trade routes again, meaning the prices will be high so we can sell high all of our terrible weapons, making the extra odd bit of gold here and there. I also hired another party member while I was here to get us up to that magic 12 because I was very intent on being at that number, thinking anytime you don't have the maximum complement of 12, that's just missed potential, it's increased risk. Turns out it's the other way around. You want to go for like 8 or something, people were saying, to minimize risk because of how the game's background AI buffs work. Anyway, with our newly weakened party of 12 members, we take a mission to just deliver something to the top left of the map. We do that and get some cash. Grabbed another mission here. It was a caravan escort mission to go somewhere off to the top right of the map. On the way, we got this random event pop up about a dog following our caravan or something. And the long and short of it is that we get a dog out of this random event. At first I thought the dog would be like a party member that you would deploy similar to the Battle Brothers, especially because it says you gain Battle Brother afterwards as if it's another Battle Brother. But no, it's an inventory item that you equip as an accessory, and then in combat you can have a release dog action to take, which will then spawn another party member that is the dog. So that's how it works. As far as I can tell, they don't eat food, which is quite useful, and the dog theme kind of continued because the caravan reached its destination uneventfully, but this destination had a dog store at it, which I hadn't seen before. Someone had said somewhere in the comments, I think, that using dogs was a good idea. And it really is, because check out these prices. Dogs are much cheaper than weapons, but in combat, they act as weapons. They attack enemies and do damage similar to low-level weapons. So spamming dogs isn't such a bad idea. Just having an entire crew that just releases 12 dogs might get you quite far. Anyway, I also went to the weapon shop while I was here, and there was a nice shiny pike I wanted to buy to replace the pitchfork I was using on one of my guys. It's going to cost pretty much all of my money, but we're going to go for it. We're also going to be immediately punished because we now don't have very much money. I went to the nearby city to grab a mission. There was a really high-paying mission, but it's to escort a caravan like to the other side of the map diagonally, so it's really far. It's going to take 4 days to get there, and I'll be bankrupt on the way, basically. So that's a shame. I ended up selling virtually my entire inventory and getting down to just the bare essentials I couldn't bear to part with. I wanted to have a few items still in my inventory that I'm not using. Just in case somebody dies, I can immediately buy a replacement and give them some not absolutely terrible gear to keep our momentum going. That's the idea. So with that, we carry on. However, we get another random event that pops up. This time an event that effectively gives us a free party member. Now in this moment of near bankruptcy, that's just what we don't need, but I take it on anyway, because I figured having a reserve party member might be useful. This 13th guy can't fight, but as mentioned, I'm actually making myself weaker. Not only is this buffing the AI's characters, but this guy can't even fight in battles, and he's eating our food and taking my money, which is going down fast. Before we get to our destination, we are ambushed by some bandits, and we end up in this foresty type battle. It was kind of hard to tell what was going on, but I remembered a loading screen tip, and that was something to the effect of press B to see what's blocking your movement. This is much better. These red patches appear, and we can see the clear channels through the terrain. So after this, we're going to be having this red thing on pretty much constantly. It's much easier to plan when it's obvious what's impassable terrain and what you can hit weapons through and stuff like that. We end up fighting in 3 different locations. We've got this main blob in the middle, and then 2 little raids going to either flank. Both attacks on the flanks though are blocked by 1 guy, and the terrain blocks any other routes through. So we have to fight our way forwards. Meanwhile in the middle we've got at least 3 guys here who just can't really do anything. The guys at the front can sit behind their shields and everyone else is just skipping their turns. We really need the ability to swap round and have that cost action points or something. As mentioned, sometimes you can do it if you take a certain perk build. But I would be interested in seeing it available all the time, just as a gameplay feature, like in a high quality tactics game, Godless Tactics I might add. So we're shielding and stabbing away here, and our guy with the flag can do his usual work, because while we're all stuck, he just needs to shuffle forward and poke over the shield wall to take these not particularly strong enemies out. Plus our lower flank attack is successful. We land 2 hits on that enemy and take him down with the headshot from the swordsman. Now we can rear attack the enemy's central area, and that's all going to be good. Here we are moving up once again with the flag, ready to bag another kill. Just need to pick your victim with this thing, seemingly overpowered, but I am of the opinion that having 1 overpowered character in a turn-based tactics game is always a good idea. I was convinced by Fire Emblem after noticing they always seem to do that. There is a lot of agency available to knowing at least one thing you can do will almost certainly succeed. You can build plans around that. We're still hacking our way forwards, making a risky move there to attack through zones of control, or move through zones of control, sorry. We avoided being hit though. At the top I was trying to shield bash that guy out of the way. I thought maybe that would be faster than killing him. Didn't seem to go all that well though, because we're still stuck in a choke point and unable to use some of our guys up there. We don't really need them though, as it turns out, because the slaughter down in the middle is well enough. It's mainly just because these bandits have the low level armor, so you only have to get a couple of hits on them to kill them. Whereas we're now at the point when it's going to take a few hits to kill us, and with the enemy's terrible weapons we can probably survive like 4 or 5 hits. There's a quick look at the dog on the field. It didn't really do anything in this mission, but I am going to use it a bit more in the future. We even got some good loot. I think it might be not just defending villages, but defending in general that gives you the good loot. So when you're defending a location or a caravan, the things that spawn to attack you will have some supplies on them that you can take. Not quite sure if that's how the game works, but that's how it seems to be working at least. Once the caravan reaches its destination, we're going to do a bit of caravanning ourselves actually, because this village it stops at now has the well supplied thing, so it's selling stuff cheap. And it has a load of lumber here, and I noticed I can buy it for less than its value at the moment. So I thought, well, I'll invest a bunch of my money in this. People in the comments to earlier episodes had said that trading is the best thing to do early on, just find a good trade route and keep doing it. You do lose renown doing this, because your renown is constantly going down, so if you're not completing missions, then it's going to keep going down, so walking backwards and forwards trading things could damage you in the long run. But I suppose if you do it right at the start of the game, that won't really be a big deal. Anyway, here's an example of me doing it, and even better, the city I go to next door has ambushed trade routes, so I can sell it for extra. Basically, we bought it for less than its value, sold it for more, and made at least a couple of 100 crowns in profit. Unfortunately, we can't just do it again, because now that the thing has been bought and sold, it's gone from the other village. Presumably it will respawn back there one day, but who knows when that's going to be. I actually did go back because there was one more unit that I didn't buy, so I'm going to do it again to make a tiny bit more money. But of course we are also using up food and paying our brothers to be doing this with us, so with a big party like ours, this is probably a bad time in particular to be doing trading, but there you go, I discovered it at some point it seems. Grabbed a mission from that city to go take down a bandit base, so we'll just look at this mission to finish this part. It said there was an unknown number of enemies as we went in to attack. Fortunately it was only 7, that's pretty manageable. But those 7 are equipped with good gear now, so I think this is the effect of us increasing our party size. The enemy aren't necessarily getting more party members themselves, but the bandits now have above usual standard gear. Normally they just have virtually nothing, as we've seen earlier in this episode, but these bandits are a cut above. There was some mention of the possibility it's related to the level of your party members and what equipment they have. That would make a bit more sense to me, but broadly speaking, all scaling systems are bad from the player's point of view. It's always nicer to let the player still have access to the easy content if they want, and the reason people don't do it is because it's harder to develop. You have to develop more content that is harder and have it be separate content. But with this design, you can just take the easy missions and make them harder and then replay the easy missions as the hard missions. So that's why we're still fighting a bandit party, but we seem to have advanced in the game in some way, because now these bandits are stronger than ones we fought before. You might have noted there, at the start of battles I often have to switch my equipment, because at the end of a battle, if you switch to your smaller weapons to try and kill the enemy with less damage to their armor, the switch remains into the next fight, so you have to remember to switch it back in the menus, which I usually don't, so we have to start our battle by getting our spears out. But don't get too excited. We plow on into the camp then, and things just kind of generally go well. There's not too much to say about this one, other than the fact it was the first case where I used the dogs more effectively. I released the dogs in the middle of the melee, and they just get in amongst things and do the odd bit of damage, and right here we even grab a kill with one of the dogs, which gives you an achievement. Plus the dogs also can be attacked by the enemy, so they're acting as aggro beacons, and while they're easy to kill, they're cheap to replace, so in a heartless kind of way, it's much better to swarm dogs all over the place because you can get loads of them for the price of one battle brother. Plus they don't add to your party member count, so you can have 12 guys and 12 dogs at the same time in an ideal setup. Anyway, we go on through the mission, we just hammer the enemy with our overwhelming numbers. I then spent a full 5 minutes on the last guy, trying to kill him in such a way that he would drop his armor, because he's wearing good armor. I'm trying to use the puncture on the knives or the headshots on the flails, but this footage here is of me not doing that because I just gave up, it took too long. Eventually, we just kill him, didn't lose anyone in the mission, and there were some good drops, a kite shield, which is good against arrows, and a boar spear, which is a little bit better than the usual militia spears we've been using, so that's another upgrade. That's going to save us 1,000 gold or so from buying it in the shop. Plus, because we attacked a base, again we get a few bits and bobs of actual stuff, barely any actually, for the size of the base and what this place was supposed to be, so that's a disappointment. But even if it gives me like 3 grain, I still feel like that's a lot better than getting no grain. It feels like there should have been some grain there. Anyway, somebody gets the spear, so our party just became ever so slightly more powerful. And that's what we'll continue doing. In the next episode, we just need to get more gear and gradually move up to having metal armor and spears that aren't the baseline spears. And I guess the game will just get harder to generally negate those advances, and the cycle will continue. How will it end? I still don't know.